You're listening to Storage Nerds Podcast, where we unravel the best-kept secret of the real estate investing world, the storage industry. Join the grassroots guru in self-storage, Stacy Rossetti, in insightful discussions about finding, funding, and running these spaces, allowing you to yield the highest returns possible. Get your foot in the door on self-storage and discover how to properly purchase facilities, negotiate with sellers, and close the deal without worries. Start unpacking that investment wisdom with Stacy right now.
We'll go to my first ever deal here that I did. And let's see, they might not even, they're still here. They're moved now, and I'll explain this. So I was driving down the road on the way home from work, actually. My work was on the other side of town over there to the right. And I was driving home from work, and there's this self-storage facility here. And let's see if we can get in here and see this real quick. As you can see, it's not here anymore. But basically, I owner financed this self-storage facility, and I had like 3 months to figure out where I was going to put it. So I was actually going to put this self-storage property or self-storage facility on a different property because the owner didn't want to sell the property, but he wanted to sell the facility. So it was a very odd situation. Stacy had never dealt with it before, and no one else really had done what I did at first, which was
what was the conversation with the owner like? So you drove past, and then what was the conversation like? How did you get this?
Yeah, it's super confusing, and I hate that it's my first ever one I did. But basically, I drove down this weird dirt road with all these abandoned cars, and he lives back in here, and there's a house right here and right here. I walked in there, I was like, hey, it's an abandoned storage facility. Like, no one was renting it. And I was like, can I buy this little piece of property up by the road here? And I'll just buy this little piece of property. And he was like, no, I don't want to sell the property because I'd like to use it for more cars, basically, to put more used cars on. And he was like, but I'll sell the storage facility. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, you can just go out there with a drill and some tools and take it down and go move it as long as you have a slab to put it on. Of course, this was the hardest thing for me because I'm so new in all this. And I'm like, holy shit, I have to figure out how to move this facility and all that. Then we worked out a deal. I bought both of these facilities for $10,000, so $5,000 a piece.
So how big are they?
They were 22 feet by one. They were 1,800 feet a piece. What, 3,600? Yeah. So 3,600 square foot. And I bought it for $5,000 a piece. And then basically he was like, look, I'm not playing any games. You either figure out what you're going to do with it, just have it out of here in 3 months. So now I was looking everywhere in the area for a piece of land that I could buy super cheap. And I almost bought a couple different parcels that were anywhere from honestly $15,000 all the way up to $100,000. And I was just going to get a loan on it or try to owner finance it. And I kept driving around. As you know, Stacy will teach, to drive around. And at the time, that's, all I would do is just drive around and look. I went up this way into Irvington, which is only, this is only 10-minute drive, 5 to 10-minute drive here. And on the side of the road was this little building, and it was a storage facility on the side of the road, all abandoned. So we'll go into this now here.
Before you start going, so how did you come? Because you're 21 years old. So how did you come up with $10,000?
Yeah, so I had been working since I could drive. When I was 16 years old, I started working in a watermelon patch, and I was getting paid $20 an hour. And then plus, if I worked the concession stand areas, $10 an hour or whatever. So all the money I saved throughout high school and all that, I didn't do a lot of stuff with it. I also did some stuff that Stacy doesn't even know about. I bought a school bus. I turned it into an RV. I sold the money from that. So I actually had a good I had a good, I don't know, maybe $30,000 to $40,000 by the time I was 21, like just saved up from doing tons of work. And I actually had 4 tax jobs at the time, like 4 jobs that like I had, 1099 for, whatever it is, or W-2. And I worked at a machine shop. I worked construction. I worked in the seafood industry. I've done a lot. So I had a lot of money saved up. And then on top of that, my cousins and my parents also invested in me and gave me a pretty substantial down payment, like a pretty good substantial down payment that I could use on a facility. But just from all that compiling, I also had no bills. So like growing up from 16 to 21, I had no bills virtually. I mean, I didn't, I'd pay my own gas or go out to eat and buy my own food, but I wasn't paying rent or anything like this. So all that money that I could save at such a young age, people would usually just blow that money on stuff, whatever it is, partying or whatever. And instead, I actually am a very good money manager, and I put that aside. So that's how I came up with a lot of this. But you also have to keep in mind that these facilities I was buying were only, like, the first one was only 130 grand. And then it was owner finance. So I only had to come up with like not even 20 grand for the down payment. And we'll get into that too. And so how you can scale with these small properties and still make substantial money, and create value on the property as well. So then I found this property on the side of the road, and I had 3 months to move those buildings off of the other property and find somewhere to put them. So within that time, I got with this owner, and this property had grass growing up to the doors here, completely mismanaged. Like there was grass everywhere and mud holes. And this right here was like a 6-inch drop off where your car would just bottom out. And so I went in there, I called the owner of this property and met with him out there. And he was like, yeah, I mean, I just don't use it. I'm just kind of holding on to it for the real estate value because it's on a main highway here. And basically, we worked out an owner financing deal, and I bought the property. I'm still paying on it today. Everything's fine. And you can see here, the original building is this red building here. And if I zoom out, you can see here that it's just the original building there. And when you zoom back in, you can see that the 2 buildings are now there. So we put those up. So all we did is transport materials. I hired 3 different guys, substantially cheap. We weren't really licensed or anything like that. We're out of the city, so you got to check your codes and stuff. But if you're out of the city, you can do a lot of this stuff. And so that was my first, basically 2 deals, because the first one I owner financed, and we had a schedule. And, first starting out too, on the first deal, it was $10,000 owner finance. So I still had my other job. I was still making money. Like I said, I had no bills. So, I mean, like I'm paying gas and stuff, but a lot of this money I had, I'm just saving. And so we worked out a schedule to where I could pay this $1,000 over like 3 months. And that's basically how we did it. And it was no interest either. There's no interest attached onto the loan.
So the first owner with the 2 buildings owner finance as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you get him to owner finance? Did you just ask him, "Hey, would you owner finance it to me?" Or what happened in the conversation?
Yeah. So at first I was like, okay, and at first we didn't even have a price for him because he didn't know what he wanted to sell for. And then basically, the second or third time I walked back into his office, I explained to him how much it was going to cost me to move the material and pour a new slab and stuff like this. And I just asked him, if he could, I said, look, I have the cash right now if you really want me to buy it in cash. But if you don't mind, can we just stretch it out over 3 months? I'll pay like couple thousand a month, or whatever it was. I don't remember the exact numbers. And with my job I had at the time, it was really no big deal. It was almost like I'm losing no money because I had what I had already saved up, and then I could just pour my paychecks into this whole situation there. That's kind of how everything happened, and it was honestly, it was probably the most complicated deal I'll ever do, because it was like so crazy in the timeline and all the pressure I had on me and stuff.
You're so
it was
young.
just wild, and I had to build too.
There's people asking about that. So talk about the building, over there, and also talk about that how you got this one owner financed as well.
Okay, yeah. So did I put up the buildings myself? Yes, I did. You can probably look on. I have some stuff on Instagram, but other than that, I mean, there's a couple of videos of me actually like doing the work to put it up. If not, how much did you pay to put up your buildings, and how much did you pay for concrete? I used to know these numbers right off the top of my head, but it was $3 a square foot, or around $3 a square foot, to erect and to take down, which is super cheap. Okay, that's like pretty cheap. And
did you just get like some day labor, or like, well, how did you find these people?
Craigslist.
Okay.
Yeah. So Craigslist, found local people who had. Now they weren't licensed or anything like this. Okay, but we live in South Alabama, so anyone who says they can do something, they can probably do it, and they're not going to cheat you. It's a lot of handshake around here. So I also informed the people that I would be working with them directly. And to an extent, it's like taking down a giant Lego building and like building up a Lego building in the backyard. It's like you can see it there. So you take videos and pictures, and then you're basically putting that up in a different spot. So it's really not that hard. It's not like, you got to be careful on some stuff, but it's not rocket science. It's nuts and bolts and pieces. So if you know where the pieces go, you're good to go. And most all of the pieces were in great condition, so we didn't have to buy any other pieces or anything like that. So that was a good question. And then let's see.
How long did it take to take it down and put it back up?
It took 1 weekend.
Okay.
1 week. Yeah, it's so
take it down and put it back up?
1 weekend each.
1 weekend each. Okay.
Yeah. And we would have been, honestly, we got slowed down a little bit on the roof, because you have to make sure the roof's the most important part. And that took another day or so. Give it 3 days and you'll have it down and up. As long as the weather and everything goes right. So it's really not that, I swear it's really not it's not as big of a deal as like putting in plumbing and stuff for an apartment complex, it's because it's just metal. How much did I pay for concrete? Concrete was pretty expensive, which I got a good deal on it at the time. Again, not a licensed person, but he did know how to do storage facilities, because you have to put down a moisture barrier on the slab for storage facilities. And so I had to make sure that was, the priority, because if not, that, it had to be a good slab ground up, because I couldn't cheap out on the slab. The slab's very important. So it was like $5 a square foot, maybe $5.25 a square foot. And so that was relatively expensive. Me and that guy worked out a deal too, a payment plan. And I can't exactly remember what the payment plan was, but we did, me and the slab guy did work out a payment plan, and he helped me out with that.
You're just like financing everything.
Yeah, well, I didn't finance the labor. The labor I actually paid per day, basically. Is like at the end of the day, I'm like, here's your money. And a good thing was too, they had all the tools. So all I had to do was go buy new screws that we put in everything, and new bolts and washers and stuff if we needed them. And other than that, all those guys had their own tools and everything. So I didn't have to worry about any of that.
But those are like, you're a testament to what I say is like, all you have to do is ask.
Right.
All you have to do is ask, and people will finance stuff for you. I mean, it could be concrete or it could be a storage facility, So, okay. So how did you get this one financed?
Yeah. So this one, I met the owner out there. He's a local in Mobile. And going back to the whole owner financing thing, I've financed a lot of stuff now that make me money. I try not to finance things that don't make me money. But my point is explaining your situation, which, like, I'm not the best person at explaining my situation to people, but I try my best to just explain what's going on. Like, look, here's my situation. I can try to go come up with the cash, but it'd be better if you could just finance it. Plus, you'll make the interest on it, blah, blah, blah. And the more open you are in your situation, that way there's no BS anywhere, and there's no, it's pretty straightforward. They can give you, ideas of what y'all can do for, creative deal structuring. And that's what happened on here. I met the owner out here. I explained to him, I said, look, I got 3 months to figure out where to put 2 buildings. And I'm going to turn this property into like a nice looking property. I'm going to cut the grass. I'm going to re-grease all the doors. I'm going to put a new fence up on the side over here. I'm going to do all this stuff to make the property look better. Okay. I'll buy it for a pretty good price. And I was like, why don't you just finance it to me, and you can just live off you'll just have extra monthly income, and that's basically it. No prepayment penalties, so I can pay it off whenever. But it was a win-win for me and the owner. He just had this property sitting around on the highway with nothing going on. I'm going to come in there, fix it up. And all I did is explain to him my situation. Like, no lies, no BS about it. I needed to put 2 more buildings somewhere. So whether that was this property or the property down the road, I had to find somewhere to do it. So that's what I mean by explaining your situation, because I think that helps a lot if you can be a good or be good at explaining stuff like that. So
what was like the terms and stuff that y'all, do you remember, like what's the terms and stuff that y'all decided on this?
Yeah, I wish I did. I used to, like I said, I used to know all this stuff, and now I'm closing on my 5th one, and I'm just like, there's just so much.
So tell me on this one, what did you pay for it?
I paid $133,000 for this property. It's 5 acres on a main highway. This highway runs all the way to California to the Jacksonville, Florida.
And what's the mortgage that you pay on this every month?
I pay $900 a month.
Okay, $900.
Yeah, and
total, how many units do you have?
Total, we have like 70 under roof, somewhere around 70 under roof, and then we have all these parking spots too.
Oh, you made parking too?
Yeah, and we'll get to that. But I want to get back to because now I remember too. This guy was smart. He knew real estate really well, and I had offered him 3.5% interest or whatever, because at the time, this was, keep in mind, this was 1.5 years ago. He actually came back, doubled the interest rate, and I signed on a 6.5% interest rate back in 2022, beginning of 2022. You're either going to do the deal or not do the deal. I just wanted to say that. He came back after I offered all his terms, and he said, no, we got to move the interest to 6.5 so I can save my ass, basically.
I remember us talking about this, and I was like, Luther, just do the deal.
Right, because guess what now? Shit, we're at, almost double digits interest rate. So
yeah.
So don't let that stop you. I mean, if you can make it work, and take a little risk. For sure, that's what I would do. But speaking of that, though, so then let's see. Yeah, so then you got your boat and RV here. I just cut all this grass, put a fence up, and put some wood in the ground with some rebar. And that's just parking spots. You can see some of them are longer. And we actually have people parking stuff out here now. We have 2 boats. Was there any county code inspection required? Richard, look, if you're in your own town, I would check it out. But for this one, I have no clue. I mean, look, honestly, you should probably go through the permit process and talk with like the fire marshal and all that, because they what they could do is make you put a fire extinguisher somewhere too. And no, I didn't put any ad on Craigslist. I found an ad for a handyman, and the handyman knew how to do everything. So, and he had a crew too, so didn't have to worry about it. But as far as the inspections and all that, you won't have a lot even when you're in a town, because there's not much to inspect. I mean, as long as you make sure that, there's just not a lot to inspect. There's no plumbing, there's no electric in the units, unless you do have electric in the units.
Yeah, you don't do county inspections typically, unless it's an indoor climate controlled unit. Like there's no like, especially in the middle of Alabama in a little tiny town. I mean, it's like, this is not how it works. I've tried to build in little towns. I've called up the county and they just say like, yeah, just go for it. Do whatever you want to do, no rules.
Yeah. Now, if you're in a city, any city limits and stuff, you could probably still get away with it. Honestly, I probably would, but you gotta, if it's primary market, you just gotta be careful. You really don't want to get all those fees and stuff.
You should definitely, like, if you're in a city or secondary tertiary market, but you just have to remember this is like backwoods Alabama, right? There's not a lot of rules over there. So okay, so how are you managing this thing now? Parking.
Yeah, so I do everything that Stacy does. We have disc locks that have individual codes on them. I etch the locks in, and we have a whole database for all those locks. Tenants can move in from their phones, and they can get the gate code and everything to get into the facility. And we do it basically the same way Stacy does, and which my long guy handles all this. So he handles all that stuff. It's really no big deal.
He's like the boots on the ground guy too.
Yeah. So I pay him. This is what I pay. Okay, I pay $130 for the whole property to get cut. Keep in mind, it's 5 acres, so it goes all the way back in here. And I pay $130, and then I pay $50 for him to put locks on and take detailed descriptions of each unit and clean the units and pick up trash. That's $50. It'll take them 30 minutes out of their day to an hour out of their day, and they'll get paid $50. So when people are paying these outrageous prices for boots on ground people, I don't know what they're doing, because this guy's like my age, and he's more than happy to come out here for a couple hours and take inventory of everything, pick up all trash for $50. Because first off, it's basically under the table for him probably, and second off, that's $50 for an hour worth of work. So you can see how easy it is to manage these things. That's how we do it. We do it the same way Stacy does, other than I don't have a call center or anything, so I get calls all the time, which I'm working on that part. But yeah, so he comes out here twice a month. I don't really know how Stacy does this part, but I have him come out on the 7th and come out on the 21st. And we do overlocks on the 7th, and then we take overlocks off and check inventory on the 21st. We check inventory on both days, and then he'll mow on the 21st too.
Are you using a software? What software are you using?
Yeah, so we use Storage, just like Stacy and them use. And like I said, they can move in virtually, everything. So that's how we do it. And yeah. And so, and we might, we'll have time to get to the other deals too. But is there any questions? Is there any questions on this deal? And I want to say too, there's some cheap stuff you can do to increase income on these properties. And that's stuff like cutting the grass and just making it a huge, boat and RV storage field, because that's just pretty cheap stuff you can do to make even more income. So just think outside the box and see what you can come up with if you're buying these properties. And if there's no other questions,
are you doing insurance?
No, we don't do any insurance, which I know I need to do. I'm just so freaking busy, and I never got it set up. So very busy.
Okay. Let's go to the next two.
Okay, let me see. How many units?
Richard's saying how many units? It's 70. It's 70. Around 70 units is what it is.
Yeah. So it's around 70 units. That's without our parking, and we have I don't know, 70%, around 70% filled. So we're still in the fill up process. And security, that's a good question with security. You can see here on this screen here that there's a solar camera here that captures license plates. And there's a solar camera here that looks over the general property. There's a camera here, solar. There's a camera back here, solar, and there's a camera back here, solar. And then there's a camera here, solar, that you can see on the boat and RV side. And it has like the fish islands, and they're all solar, so I pay nothing for my electricity bill on those. And
so all in all, it's taken around, your mortgage is $900 plus what's your other expense, $130, so maybe like $1,200 a month or something to manage this.
Yeah. And then my electric bill's like $50 a month because we have lights and stuff. And for some reason, each of these units have their own alarm system. It's a whole racket. But I'm trying to turn them off and just not deal with it. But anyways, so yeah, you could say $1,200 in expenses, and then you got your property tax and insurance, and yeah, so then that's a good ratio. Let's see real quick.
Okay, good.
P&L, yeah, that's basically my P&L. So you can guess 1,200 in expenses, and you can also guess that our average unit cost is like, so we're making over $3,000 a month. We're clearing like $2,000 a month. That's what's going on. So we're clearing like $2,000 a month. All that money that we clear goes right back into the bank account, and it starts getting me ready for another down payment. So like off of this facility, like all this money that will be made in cash flow, I just put it right back into the bank account and get ready to use it as a down payment. And then
well, let's move on to the next one, so we have enough, because we have like 25 minutes or so left. So let's do the next one so they could see those two.
All right, yeah. So once I figured it out and kind of I had my first properties there, I started moving out out more, because I was like, okay, like I can do this, like I can do this remote, So I started looking in all these little towns in Alabama. I called in Troy, and now we have 2 facilities in Troy. Let's go here. So I found these, same situation, actually not the same situation, because now really all I do is use Google Earth to find my facilities that I want to buy. And I just go around and look for them. And I found this one that way. And it had grass growing up on it too. The side of the building was dented. The gate was, like crooked on the Google Earth picture. Let's see what it looks like now. Maybe it'll be upgraded now. Yeah, so now it looks better because, I came in there and managed it correctly. But it's this property here. I'll do a quick outline so you guys can see. It's this property. And it's about like that. And we don't actually own the building on the right. We do now, but we didn't at the time. And this was a completely different owner over here. And so I called him up, same situation. I drove up there like the next weekend and met the owner on site in person. And he had no tenants on the property. He was just holding this property for no reason. He was like, yeah, I'm in real estate and I just store some of our stuff in here, but we don't have any tenants. He said he had like 6 tenants or something, but he knew them all personally. So going into this property was probably one of the scariest things I've ever done, because it has no income, just like the last one, and I was just worried about it, because I was like, okay, it's really far away from me. I'm gonna have to fill it up, blah blah blah. But anyways, met the owner. This one I had to get bank finance through a local bank.
So he did not want to owner finance this one.
No, yeah, he did not want to owner finance, no matter what I told him. So, and you don't want to be too pushy, because you're gonna piss him off. And so, it's whatever his situation is. Maybe he wants to go buy a yacht or something with his money. I don't know.
So how big is this? How many units and how big and stuff is it? So
this is almost 4,000 square foot total. I think, yeah, it's like 33,900, something like that, 3,800 or something. And it has 30 units total. So the units are just big. So that a lot of 10 by 15s and a lot of 10 by 10s. We don't have any small units. You can see here on a thing, one's open. That's probably from an old screenshot. But
so how did
yes.
you get a bank to finance this if you didn't have any income? So tell the bank story.
Yeah, so first I went to Regions, okay, because my parents set me up with Regions when I was 16. They're like, here, look, here's your own credit card and everything. You use it. And we had great relations with Regions. You know, they're a pretty big bank. You might have them where you guys are at. And I walked in there with I had my deal analyzer folder and all my paperwork and, real professional. Walked in there with the suit on. And I sat down and I was like, hey, like I'm looking for like a small business loan for my self-storage company. And they basically looked at my stuff for like 5 minutes and basically told me to get out the door. So that's what happened when I tried to go to a big bank.
I love this story so much. It's like the best story.
Yeah, they just like couldn't finance it because, okay, it's not making money. I get that. But I also had the after updates, what's going to happen if what I feel like is going to works, which I knew to an extent everything was okay because I did a lot of market research. I was calling around, everyone was full, so I knew I could fill this thing up. Plus, it had no marketing. None of these facilities had any marketing. None of them were on Google or anything. I knew that, and so, but the bank at this time, this was about 8 months ago, 9 months ago, they didn't want to touch it because, stuff was getting a little sketchy and stuff. And it's even more sketchy now. And so they didn't want to touch it. So I walked into a local.
That's Regions, right?
Yeah, that's Regions. Okay, yeah. And so then I walk into a local bank in Troy Bank and Trust. And they're down here somewhere downtown. I sat there for like an hour with the head loan officer. I had my suit on and everything, had my paperwork ready to go. And I explained to them like what the situation is and how I'm going to make them money. And, basically the bank in my situation, at least from what I've learned, and I haven't had that much experience, but they would just want to know that you're going to make them money at the end of the day. So like, are you going to be safe? Like they just want to get their money at the end of the day. So I sat down for an hour, talked with them, and boom, it was done. We'll get a loan out to you, blah, blah, blah. And they gave me these.
Did you make an appointment or did you just walk in?
I just walked in. Yeah, and a guy named Mark.
Imagine what these people are thinking.
Yeah, so shout out to Mark at Troy Bank if you're somehow listening to this. But Mark's like a really good guy. He's awesome. And so he was like, "Yeah, we'll do it. I'll get you some terms out, and you're just gonna have to see if they work with you." And so this property was $120,000. But like I said, it's a big risk. I mean, and a lot of these units are broken, so I had to fix a lot of stuff too. Like even on the other property, it's not all willy nilly. So that's more than what people think it is. I had to stay in a hotel for a week up here just to fix up the property every day. Up at 7 o'clock, I'm out there by 8 o'clock. I'm fixing springs. I'm doing everything. It's all on my Instagram and everything. But it's not, I don't want everyone to think it's just easy because it's not going to be easy, but you can create a lot of value. Anyways, I go in there. I get my loan terms back. It's 6.5% interest on a 20% down. So he wanted a lot down. I still had my money left over. I probably had close to 20 grand left over from the last property because I didn't use it all. And we're still constantly making money. We filled up on the other property, the first like little facility we had, the little with the red doors, we filled that up instantly. And so I was making good cash flow. I also still had a job. And so I'm making, all this money I'm making. I have no rent, where I was living. I could put this money aside and keep producing down payments for properties because at this age, I don't have a lot of bills. A lot of y'all probably have, now I have like 30 bills every month, but back then I didn't have a lot of bills. So everything I'm just saving. So now I have another down payment ready to go for another small property. And so that's what we did here. I told him, okay, it was at 6, and it wasn't at 6.5. It was actually at 5.25. And 5.25 was this property. And that was pretty good at the time. That was pretty standard. And I signed on it. Me and the owner shook hands. The owner still has 3 units here, the previous owner. And we filled this property up I filled it up in like, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months we were filled up, and we started having to raise rent. So that's just market research and figuring out.
How did you fill it up?
We had Google and everything, but also I don't run any ads. I've never ran an ad on any of my properties. I just do market research before I get into a property. So if it doesn't work from the get-go, I don't know, or I don't care what price I can buy it at or any of this. If I don't think it's going to fill up quick and keep a steady supply, I don't buy into the market. And like I said, I've never done any advertisement online or anything, no spare foot, nothing. I've never done anything. And
just the Google business listing is it. You basically have a sign and the Google business listing.
Yes.
That's in tertiary markets, you could still, like little tiny towns like this, you could still do that. Now, obviously, in secondary and primary markets, you need to be marketing. All right. But in a tertiary town, you can do this.
And trust me, I could make more money too if I marketed. We could start raising rates even higher because we get our name out there more. But honestly, I'm trying to figure out how to delegate stuff because I'm a very, very busy man right now. And I'm just trying to figure it all out. Like, we need to offer insurance to tenants. We need to do tons of stuff in-house that I'm going to be working on this year. So it's a lot to learn, but I'm moving very quick because the window of opportunity, if I see a good deal, I'm going to make it happen. So anyways, that's the story on this property. I want to move to this one next door. This one, for the longest time, he's a really awesome guy too. He has an electric gate out front of his property. He didn't really want to sell. When I met him, I was like, hey, I just bought the property next to you. Like, would you be interested in selling? No, we're not interested. Sorry. Blah, blah, blah. Basically what happened is I didn't keep asking him. I would call him like maybe once every 2 months. And then he ended up wanting to sell, and he did not want to owner finance as well. So no matter, and you can't be too, like I said, you can't be too much because they're just going to walk off and go put it on the market or whatever they want to do. So I ended up getting this bank financed as well. And this was only, I just closed on this one maybe 3-4 months ago. Like I said, I'm moving really quick. I've only been with Stacy for 1.5 years, but basically the bank came to me, Mark came to me, and I came to Mark and I said, look, I need another loan. Like, I got another property here that I want to buy. And he was like, look, you need to come in and talk to me, or we need to hop on a call because I want to see what's going on with the old property, right? So that's what I did. I went back up there, 3.5-hour drive, 4-hour drive.
Did you wear a suit this time?
Yeah. And this time, believe it or not, I bought these people it's Alabama. They're really crazy about football. So I bought a suit that was the same color as the Troy Trojans, which is like a red maroon suit, because I was going to see if you'd give me a little discount or something, because they're all crazy about football. Anyway, so I walk in there with my suit and everything. Yeah. But always be professional too when you walk in, because, it'll probably work out better. But anyways, I get in there. And so I show him what the previous property is doing. And he's just blown away, amazed at the cash flow and everything. He's like, this is insane. Like, you don't really have any overhead. Like, you filled this thing up that quick and all of this. And so we talk. A week or two later, he gets back with me, and he is ready to fully finance this next facility with no money down. Now instead of trying to come up with this down payment money, I'm calling cousins, I'm calling family members, I'm calling friends, people I went to high school with, to try to raise money on and have a little contract, pay X amount over.
What did you get a contract for this one, Luther? How much?
This one was 133. So the first one was 130. The other one was 120, and this one's 133.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so I'm going crazy trying to find some down payment money within those 2 weeks, because this one's starting to cash flow really well, and the other one's cash flowing really well. So we're making good down payment money. And keep in mind, I only have to come up with 20,000 to 10,000 down on these small properties, so I can really make some plays on them. Because like otherwise, if I'm buying $1 million property, I'm going to have to somehow come up with 200 grand, which just isn't happening at my age right now. And so I'm going crazy.
You're getting there, Luther. Believe me, you're getting there.
So I'm going crazy trying to figure out like how I'm going to raise this money, because you can't let the deal slip. If you know it's a good deal, you better be every day grinding to figure out how you're going to get the money. I don't care if you're having to call your cousin that you haven't seen in 4 years or whatever. If you give them a good return, they're going to be, and a lot of these people just have money sitting in the bank doing nothing. So anyways, I'm going crazy. Mark calls me back a week or two later. Hey, we're going to fully finance this thing for you. Here's the rates. Here's everything. So boom, I didn't have to like worry too much. We're cash flowing all of the property still. And this property.
What was the terms that he gave you for the, tell them the terms and stuff. Cause I mean, I know, but tell everybody what happened.
Yeah. 8% interest. Cause like I said, this was 3 or 4 months ago. They're also fully financing it. So it's like, it was a higher interest rate, and purchase price at 133 over 20 years, no balloon, no floating rate. And
so what's the mortgage for this one?
Yeah, the mortgage for this one is way higher than this, like because of the interest rate. So like this mortgage right here was $650 on the left one.
Okay.
And this mortgage on here was like $1,030 or something. 1,030 maybe.
That sounds about right. Okay.
Yeah. So just by the interest, now this one costs like $13,000 more than this one, but just for the interest, this one is, crazy. And it's even smaller facility than this one. And I'm paying more on it than this one. But this one was also
all in. You're at like 260 for these.
Yes,
around 260. Yeah. And then you have all this land. You got to go out there and find somebody that's selling your units again, and then just build it.
Right.
Get a super good deal and do it again for this land right here. Yeah, you still have all this land right here, so you'll be able to grow. Plus your 5 acres at your other property. I mean, you have 2 very, very good properties, so you don't need to worry about your purchase price. Now you just have to manage it properly. Worry about your cash flow, which is what you're always talking about.
Right. So, and that's another important thing to me that isn't that important to other people, is I have to make sure these things cash flow, because I don't have a lot of like streams of income. So like, just make sure you have your priorities in a row and be like, okay, does cash flow really matter to me, or am I good to just hold on to this thing and do whatever else you're doing in life or whatever. So having your keys set in and your priorities are good too. Let me get to the last one real quick. We got 5 minutes. So those are those 2. I bought out the competition, and now I'm buying one in Arkansas. And now, instead of going crazy for the down payment here, I got it fully financed. So I'm just moving that down payment to Arkansas. And I'm just going to have one over here in Arkansas, and I'll show that one. Hold on. That one needs a lot of work.
You're closing on this one by the end of the month, right?
Right. Yeah. This one we're closing on by the end of the month. I've already sent the cashier's check and everything to him. This is owner finance too. At 4.5%. So
how did you find this one?
This is Stacy's program. She found it. 3 students passed on this deal because of how much work it needs. The roof on this side needs replaced because it has a hole in it. But 3 of Stacy's students passed this one up. And we were on a meeting, and she was just like, I don't know what we're going to do with it. I guess we're just going to have to drop it off, because we had one pair of students that were in Mexico who didn't want it, and then another pair of students who thought it had too much work. it's a perfect thing for me because I'm going to go stay out there for 2 weeks and fix everything. I'm going to go get a hotel or Airbnb and fix everything up.
So how big is it? How many units and stuff first before we get into
this one's the biggest one I've bought. It's almost it's like 9,000 square foot, and it has like maybe 80 something units, and it has a lot of land. So I'll show you that real quick. It's a lot of land. So all these properties I'm buying have a lot of land. And so this is all of it right here. And then it has this highway. It's a main highway that cuts through it. So, and this area is really good too. But we have a main highway, so we're gonna do
right on the main highway. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna put some billboards up and do some extra income like that. Like I said, you got to think out of the box, figure out what you can do, and then just do it. But so this will have a billboard here. The current owner has said he's been contacted to put a billboard in and stuff, and he just hasn't had the time to deal with it. Lamar Advertising that's contacted him.
Well, and the owner's an investor too. So like he kind of thinks the way that Luther's thinking. And I told Luther, I was like, this owner, and this is what happens with a lot of owners, is that they're the type of people, they'll do the deal if you go and meet them. Like, right. I know this guy's, because when I talked to him on the phone, we connected very well. And he told me the price, and then he said he would just split that into two. So that's why I told Luther, you can get into that story. And then when you go out, what did y'all talk about?
Yeah, so actually when I first called him, he was like, we're not really thinking about selling anymore and all this. Because what had happened is this deal, Stacy has her program with students, and they get to pick on these deals. And what happens is the students just pass on these deals, and it, becomes months of, not contacting the owner. And I contact him, and he's like, look, it's been almost 3 months and no one's made me an offer, contacted me, or we had made an offer, but no one's, like called me back or anything. So I'm like, look, I apologize. I'm really interested. And so I fly out there the next weekend. I fly out there, buy a plane ticket. I fly out there. I'm there for a day and I come back. But while I'm there, I meet the owner on site. It was a whole ordeal. This whole road was closed down here towards the highway. So my Uber dropped me off and I had to walk all the way to the facility. And he was just standing outside. He thought I was like a robber or something. I was all sweaty, just tired. And
did you tell him the story?
Yeah, I did. And then this is the issue too. Sorry, I don't want to go too far off topic. But
okay, we only have a couple more minutes, so make sure, because we got to hop off.
Yeah, look, the point is that you got to be dedicated. My Uber drops me off here and says walk, so I walk over here because he can't get through. The road's closed, so I'm like, whatever. So I'm walking, and all these roads are fine, but the main road was closed for some reason. So I walk, and I'm sitting here walking around the property for 10 to 15 minutes. And the owner's here just like looking, but I'm thinking the owner's a tenant. So I'm just taking pictures of the property. And he's like, well, who are you? Like, what are you doing? You've been here for 10 minutes just walking around my property. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know you were the owner. Like all this stuff. And so I tried to explain my situation and all this, but it's just.
Okay. So how did you get him to owner finance real fast?
The same situation on the other ones. He didn't want to owner finance at all, by the way. He was so against it. And then I explained the process. And I also explained to him that wasn't my first rodeo, that I've done this on my, a lot of my properties I've owner financed. Then he kind of warmed up to it. But when we first talked, he was very against it. So a lot of people just don't have knowledge on it. I explained to him the tax implications and stuff like that. And also,
tell him the purchase price that you got this for.
Purchase price was $215,000.
$215,000 for 80 units. That's amazing price. Yeah.
We'll put. I'm gonna. If I hired a company, I'll have to put 10-20K into it for the roof material and stuff. But if I do it myself with like some guys off of Craigslist, I can really cut this stuff down really, really far. But it needs some work. Don't get me wrong. You can't see it all the way here, but the roof is leaking on that side, and then some of these units are damaged.
You need to paint it.
Right. Yeah. So
Somebody can paint it for sure. Yeah.
Anyways, that's it, guys, and yeah.
So what's the terms on the owner financing for this?
All right, 10% down, so that's a steal because I'm only having to come up with 20 grand. And that's no big deal right now because I've been pretty much saving all the cash flow from the other properties. So every time I've got a new property, I store that money and then I put it into another down payment. And what I'm doing is it's basically making me able to get in these bigger properties. And yeah, that's basically it. Like, yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, what I want to say is like Luther is like a true testament that if you want to get into this, you can start small and work your way up. Just like his story is the exact same story as my story. Yeah. And if you want to do this, you can do this. It ain't easy,
No, it's not easy.
But this is exactly how I started out. And there's nothing wrong with going into small towns, working your way up, getting some owner finance deal, and you'll find diamond in the rough, just like this one. He's going to buy this. It's 80 doors for 200,000. That's a great deal. It's worth like 800-900 grand once it gets filled up. It'd be worth a lot of money. And so, right. He has a lot of property as well too. He can add on to this one.
Yeah, and like, there's also one thing I wanted to say to everyone on the podcast, and that is that, and these are people from my age, if you're listening, or for people that are older, there's just no excuses because we honestly, like I'm saying this, we live in a very, very good country to help like build wealth. And if you just take advantage and actually work at stuff, you can do this with many different companies. I've never like my family has never like been like some huge wealth thing or anything. My dad didn't even go to college. He was a cabinet guy his whole life. My mom has an architecture firm. Like, no one knows anything about real estate in my family. And I just studied my ass off. That's all there is to it. And I saved money and I put money where it needs to be instead of going and spending money on stupid things like, people my age would be doing. And now I'm here making value out of property. So I just want to say, if you're in a tough spot or like you're in a different scenario and you think there's no way you can make it out, I just want you to know that you can do this, and you can do this on many other companies other than storage if you just really focus on it and put your mind to it. That's what I'd like to let everyone know.
I love it. Thank you so much. You are an inspiration, Luther, and I appreciate you hopping on and letting everybody hear your story. And I'm sure everybody that's listening is all inspired by what you're saying as well, too, because you are an inspiration. So, and I'm so glad that I met you and you're in my life for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate being able to come on and everything. So thank you.
All right, we got to hop off. All right, because we got to meet an owner. So you guys take care, and we'll see you guys at the next session. Okay. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Storage Nerds. Hope this informative conversation inspired you to go out there and jump into this highly profitable business venture that people rarely talk about. Get more tips on storage space investing at www.stacyrossetti.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a rating. Together, let's build that thriving passive income one storage space at a time. Until next time.